Hello, my name is Apu Rebecca Yuang, and I am a student from Aspen University. Today, I am here to make a presentation on healthcare communication, and to be particular, I'm going to talk about SBAR. So, SBAR is an acronym that stands for Situation Background Assessment and Recommendation. It is a tool of communication that nurses use during shift change and patient transfer, and they also use it to communicate critical information about patients that need immediate attention of their physician. So it is a verbal phone call communication that requires a nurse to get more information about the patients than call the physicians to attend to. So today in this presentation, we are looking at a patient who has been brought into the emergency unit with a history of feeling dizzy and started losing consciousness. And when this patient was admitted, he was diagnosed to be having a condition called syncope. So we looked at the background of this situation, and we looked at syncope as an irreversible loss of consciousness due to inadequate blood supply to the brain. As we know, our brain feeds on a few substances like glucose and oxygen, plus some other minerals that keep it functions perfect. But it is important that our brain shouldn't lack oxygen or inadequate level of oxygen for a certain period of time. So here we looked at Mr. O, whom the wife brought to the health care facility, in this case emergency unit, having the history of fainting. So we looked at syncope. It has several causes. Some of them are cardiac by origin, like patients who experience cardiac arrhythmias, whereby the heart beats too hard to the face that it cannot pump enough blood that can supply sufficient oxygen to the brain. And here, when the patients experience that, they experience sudden fainting. And when the situation arrests itself and the neurotransmitters of the neurotransmitter system of the heart begin to work efficiently, the patient's heartbeat is restored, and here the patient recovers from it. And then another cause of it can be situational. Some people experience that temporary loss of consciousness during defecation, during maybe coughing, or after they have just eaten, or even when they're urinating, for certain reason that we cannot tell in this video. Those are certain causes, and we categorize them as situational. And then other important causes of syncope is what we call vasovagal reflexes, and these are nerves mediated. And here in this case, some patients experience emotions, or some people who have fears of certain things. And then in this case, we looked at other causes of syncope as positional changes in position, and we call them ortho something. It's difficult for me to pronounce it, but I can put it in the way you can understand it. Changes in position, like you get up quickly from when you had been resting, or just stand up all of a sudden, and there the body is not prepared to supply a lot of blood to your brain, and there you experience dizziness and falling up. Then patients who had been standing for some period of time experience pooling of blood to the extremities, and they cannot have enough supply of oxygen to the brain. So when I looked at the cause of Mr. O syncope, he has a history of cardiac arrhythmias for a few years, and history of stroke, which are common causes of syncope. Yes, when we look at a stroke, we have that transient ischemic attack, which can come for a moment and then when the blood vessels open up and the blood supply is restored, the patient normalizes. So this could be the probable cause of 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 the syncope in these patients. And then when we looked at it, what has not been included in the SBAR here for the physician to exactly know this patient has not been put on ECG. This patient was supposed to be put on ECG, and his heart rhythm is monitored for a certain period of time to rule out that his syncope has been due to the cardiac to the abnormalities in the heart activities, in this case the contraction and relaxation, so to rule out arrhythmias in this patient. Then other things that which have not been done here, we should rule out transient ischemic attack by doing those investigations. They had not been included here on the background and the situations of these patients. So I feel they should have been included so that we know the picture. Having this history of cardiac arrhythmias in the few years could have happened again and caused this patient to have syncope. That is my feeling, and that's what I feel has not been added in the scenario. Otherwise, the rest of the presentation has been perfect. So when we look at the next prompt of this question, we need to know why you think there's something which has been added in the SBAR and what you think you do not need to put in the SBAR. And if you do this conversation again, what you can add. Do you think that the significance of the situation was clearly presented to the physician? I would say yes. The situation was presented, and what I will talk about here is what could have been done or what could have been removed in the SBAR. I would look at SBAR and compare it to the use of electronic health record, which is one of another major communication tools that healthcare providers use at the hospitals and other healthcare facilities. Electronic health record is gaining popularity, and it encompasses a lot of things, actually almost all patients' information, and they are accessible by the physicians, regardless of their absence in the unit. So SBAR should be added as part of electronic health record, the EHR, so that the system will be made in such a way that an alert is created when there is an update on patient information, so that physicians can easily access this and then make the direct recommendation on the situation of the patient, on the adjustment of any dose or ordering of certain medication. They do it immediately there and then, because this will eliminate the burden of communication error and attentive listening that the patients that the patient that the nurses experience during the time of this report. Here, electronic health record, it allows physicians to order and just record the orders there and then. They have a space, what we call computer providers order entry. And when they order some medication and the computer itself sends that this medication plus any other medication that this patient might have been taking, they have certain kind of interaction. And so it gives time and it gives that opportunity for the physician to think a little bit and make an adjustment. It also gives an alert when certain medications are given to patients who have renal impairment. They have problem with kidneys. So these patients cannot take those medications. So they inform physicians and give an alarm that this dose adjustment is needed because of the renal impairment in this patient. And then in another way, it is also important to incorporate SBAR in the electronic health record because it eliminates a lot of medication errors whereby a nurse might have not heard those one properly, and those alert they also correct. And then to add on what this patient has been presented and what this physician has been presented, what has been added or what should be subtracted in the SBAR, I looked at mentioning patient's name directly would have been compromising with the privacy policies. So I would think that these patients they need not to be mentioned by their real name. And then also during the report to the physician, they should not be called by their real names. They should be given other identifiers, maybe the room number and their privacy of these patients could have been maintained carefully. So that's what I think about the S part, what should have been added, and the situation of these patients. And at this moment, I would say that S part is an appropriate form of verbal communication that communicate the situation, the background assessment of the patient, and the recommendation what you need to be done to your patient. And so at this point, I would also think incorporating SBAR as part of electronic health record will eliminate the burdens of oral communication and communication errors more, since it is a very safe kind of communication. It should be in the electronic health record, since the world of technology was internet, and you can listen to patients alert there and then. So thank you so much for listening to me. That is my presentation on SBAR, and in this case with the patient who has syncope. Thank you so much, and bye bye. See you.